Well, good evening and welcome to Vets Clinic Live with me, Joe Ingles.
And me, Adrian Caunter.
We are live here at Vets Clinic in Swindon. We've got a packed show for you today, as always.
As always.
Coming up. We've got our look at the news stories that are in the pets, and there's some good ones this week.
Yeah, we've got loads this week, much better than last week.
Yeah, so exactly. More's been happening out there in pet world. A caption competition, of which you're going to introduce in a minute. We're going to be talking about kidney disease, which is a major issue for cats and dogs. So I'm sure there's plenty of you out there who have got pets affected by that. So we're going to be giving you the lowdown on that. And we've got a cracking guest coming up as well. We've got Sarah from Paradise Pets. That's a local pet shop here in Swindon. And she's a bit of an expert on all things small and furry.
Excellent.
And she's got some lovely, cute animals coming in, including this incredibly cuddly guinea pig. Which is very nice indeed, and some dwarf rabbits and all sorts of lovely cuddly things. So if you want a nice dose of all things cuddly, then stay tuned.
I'll leave for that bit.
You'll leave for that bit. You're not into the cuddly side.
No.
You're a vet man. Tell us about the caption competition. Adrian.
Okay, so it's our stand-in model who usually appears. Poppet. We're now actually friends, so not my enemy anymore.
Did she not like you before?
No, she didn't like me for a long time. She seems to have forgotten that now, so that's good. And here she is, I believe, on a tractor. So. Basically, Maria just poses her every week. Something brilliant about that to win, presumably.
A bag of your favourite Vet's Kitchen foods. So get your entries in on Facebook as always, and we will pick a winner by the end of the show. So come up with something nice and imaginative, something. Just trying to think. I'm rubbish at this myself. But I
no singing. No singing.
Anything I can sing it gets extra points. So get your entries in for that. We're also going to have an update later on in the show. With our Pets with Props competition, because we've had loads of fantastic entries and judging is now open on our Facebook page, so we're going to show you those pictures later on in the show.
What can you win with that one?
You can win a photo shoot for you and your pet with Poochie Portraits, who were here a couple of weeks ago, so a cracking prize again. So let's talk about news stories, shall we, Adrian?
Okay, let's do that.
And the first one is this story about weapons dogs being farmed in London's council flats and garages, and basically the gist of the story is this ongoing issue of people using steroids and other means to make their dogs stronger and more aggressive as part of sort of gangland culture. And it's pretty grim stuff, isn't it?
It's crazy. I couldn't believe it, really. I mean, obviously we use quite a lot of steroids in the clinic, and aggression isn't something we see, but there's different kinds of steroids. If they were using the ones we were using, they'd probably be causing them to wee more and eat lots, which wouldn't be very good. But if they're using the anabolic steroids, then they can get these behaviour changes. It's just crazy. And the list of breeds they've got on there is the top breeds that happen. I mean, that's all the banned breeds in this country. And we talked about banned breeds last week and how it doesn't necessarily mean they're nasty, but just crazy that they're picking these, deliberately picking them because they know they're banned, because they're not any more aggressive.
No, but maybe they think they are more aggressive, and they want an aggressive dog because these dogs are being used as weapons, aren't they? And the other way they do it is by actually hanging them from branches of trees. So I've been to this to a part of London to make a film about this in the past, and you can see bite marks on branches that are like sort of 2 meters up in the air, and there's all these bite marks on the bark where they hang the dog on, they clamp the jaws on, and they leave them swinging there, for quite a long time. And the idea is it strengthens the jaw muscle, so when they bite someone, it is ridiculous, isn't it? Well, if you've got any thoughts on that or anything else we're talking about, don't hesitate to get in touch on our Facebook page. We've had a good entry into our caption competition already. We've got Jenny who said, "Get down, Shep," which is a good start, but I'm sure we can come up with something a bit funny for this competition, because there's not many dogs who end up driving tractors. So I think we can definitely do well on that one. Let's move on from the news stories to talk about one of the big issues of veterinary medicine, which is renal disease. Obviously referring to problems with the kidneys. Adrian, you're a resident medicine expert.
Apparently so.
So let's talk about renal disease. So more common in cats than dogs, fair to say, isn't it?
Loads of older cats get it. I mean, if you have an older cat that comes in, you pretty much expect that there might be some degree of kidney compromise. But it does affect dogs too. It's something like a third, perhaps slightly more, of older cats get kidney disease, and kidney disease tends to be a disease of the older cat. You do see, like with heart disease, you do see congenital kidney disease, but that's really rare.
You see that in cats as well, don't you? Get the sort of polycystic kidneys in certain breeds of cats.
Breeds like Persians, they develop it slightly younger because they have abnormalities that develop in their kidneys, but usually there's no kind of known cause for why it happened. It's just kind of degeneration over time in the function of the kidney, and they just become less able to cope with what they're supposed to do.
And just talking of known, I mean, there are the other exception that springs to mind is metaldehyde poisoning, so antifreeze poisoning. The reason I think about that is I had a cat who suffered from this, so came down with sudden acute onset renal failure, and we assumed it must have been antifreeze poisoning. She recovered actually, but you know, that's I suppose a not uncommon cause. No,
we do see that, and actually we're talking about emergencies next month, and that's probably one of the ones that will come up. But antifreeze poisoning, not good, and usually it's fatal. So I wonder if yours did actually have antifreeze poisoning.
It's very tough cat, very well cared for. Yeah, obviously. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
That would be something that we class as acute renal failure, so it happens very quickly. The majority of cats, dogs that we see with kidney disease, it's chronic, so it happens over a period of years, and it's just kind of progressively getting worse. And you'll notice them losing a bit of weight, drinking more, weeing more, and kind of progressively going off their food. And eventually get to the point where the toxins build up so much that they're completely anorexic and vomiting.
And the I suppose those are the classic symptoms, aren't they? Weeing more and sort of weight loss and so on. And to sort of get a confirmed diagnosis, blood test looking for urea and creatinine levels.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a really good idea if you have a kind of dehydrated cat in front of you or dog, and you do a urine sample, and that urine sample isn't really concentrated, because if you're dehydrated, you should be concentrating your urine, and if it's not, and it's really weak urine, then that says your kidneys aren't functioning correctly. To find out how bad it is, or what kind of values you're dealing with, you have to do a blood test at that point. And there are other things that you need to know that blood test, you have to look at. But the urine test is probably all you need to diagnose kidney disease.
And then in this sort of typical example of a older cat with renal failure, treatment options, I mean, there's sort of dietary options, aren't there, to reduce phosphorus, but the protein one's always a contentious one, isn't it? Because you drop protein because the metabolites of protein are sort of considered to be part of the problem, but then they're losing protein through the urine, so they need more. So I don't know if you have a view on that.
Yeah, I mean, protein restriction used to be what we did, but it kind of is going out of favour a bit now. You kind of need high quality protein and in just the right amount, but the phosphate restriction is really important. So the urea and creatinine are things that are made from protein, and they're the toxins that the kidneys get rid of, and that's what makes the cat feel unwell. So trying to keep that level down is brilliant, but the phosphate, that's what kills them. So that's why we have a phosphate restricted diet, and that's probably the single most important thing after you diagnose kidney disease, is getting them on an appropriate diet and making sure they're drinking enough.
And phosphate binders, do you use those regularly?
If you're really struggling to keep that phosphate level down, then yes, there's something you can add in. That tends, again, to be more of an issue with acute renal failure, that you really can't keep that level down and you need to add in a binder. But
and then I guess the other treatment option is used regularly is the drugs to increase the blood flow to the kidneys.
There are. They basically dilate out the blood vessels to the kidney, because what happens is your blood pressure gets really high when you have kidney disease, and that blood pressure continues to damage the kidneys because you've got really fine little vessels and little nets that process the blood, and they get damaged really quickly, so you need to kind of lower that blood pressure down. But those drugs are only really reserved for cases of cats or dogs that are losing protein in the urine and or have really high blood pressure. If they don't have those things, you don't need to be on the tablets. The diet.
So really diet is the main
thing, and water, making sure they're drinking enough. And cats are really fastidious about what they drink, and this is going to come up in a tip over the next few weeks, but people say all the time, oh, he doesn't drink from the cat bowl, he drinks from the dog bowl, he only drinks from the puddle outside. It's because they really don't like to drink from a water bowl that's near their food bowl.
They also don't like the taste of chlorinated water.
No, well, it depends. If they're always used to the outside water, yes, then the taste of the other water is no good. But if they've always been on water, then changing to tap water might be, the outside water might be a problem too.
Yes, I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, if you basically, I'd just say, water bowls away from the food bowls. Big bowls, they don't like little ones because they don't get their whiskers inside them. Filled right to the brim, and ceramic or metal. No, not plastic water bowls.
Great stuff. Yeah. Let us know if you've got any thoughts about kidney failure, or if your cat or dog is suffering from this, and we can come back to this at the end of the show, because we're going to be doing our Q&A with Adrian later on. But for now, we're going to move on and look at our competition. But before we do, we've had a great response to Poppet's pictures, some cracking ones here, aren't there? So, tally-ho, off to Vet's Kitchen we go. There's none I can sing yet. This will come in useful for rounding up sheep, from Gillian Wright, so that's a good one. I've got the collie wobbles about driving this thing. I like that. Thank you, Jerry. What are you looking at me like that for? You said I had to drive the sheep in. Well, the fields won't plough themselves. Why aren't I moving? I've got a brun, no, come, why no, and I'll give you the key. I knew there'd be one I could sing. So brilliant, keep them coming in, they're fantastic, thank you. But now we're going to say goodbye to Adrian briefly. We're going to talk to Sarah from Paradise Pets, but before we do, let's have a look at our entries for the Pets with Props competition. These are up on our Facebook page, and we need you to judge them by liking the one you like the most, and the winner is going to win the photo shoot at the end of the month. So we're going to first of all have a look at these, and then we'll come back to you a bit later on, Adrian. So the first one we've got coming up is Autumn, who is wearing a hat. And that's the first dog we've got there on there. And then next up, we have got... who have we got next? We've got Bailey. We've got Bailey there with his Viking outfit on, looking particularly pleased about it. We've got Bella, who's there looking like she's up to a bit of digging. I don't know how on earth they got her to pose with that quite so long. And this is, we haven't got a name for this one, possibly Bruno. I think Bruno's the next one. So Bruno there looking like he's going out for dinner. The bow tie looking very good. We've got Buster just chilling out on the couch. We've got Charm and Crystal. Talking about pets with wheels, that's another great example, isn't it? One pulling the other along. We've got Chester, can't quite see what Chester's up to in that one. We've got Cookie in the flower pot, very nice. We have got Daisy acting as a baby, very nice. Hope he didn't swallow that, otherwise we might be at the vet's trying to fish it out from inside. We've got Dylan there looking like he's up to no good on the desk. This is Fizz, just chilling out in some tracksuit bottoms. Fizzy choosing his favourite channel, which is of course Vets Clinic TV. We've got Freddie, who's been on the booze. Obviously we don't recommend that pets drink alcohol. We've got Harley there, dressed up as Father Christmas. We've got Honey, who's didn't really think cats liked toast. I think we might have to call it a day fairly soon. We've got one more here. We've got Kimber, and then we've got Kingston, but I didn't realise we had quite as many as that. So, but the rest of them, they're all up on the on our Facebook page. So I'd urge you to go along to our Facebook page and like the ones you like the most, and then we'll have a winner by the 19th of March. We're going to announce it in the show later on in the month, and the winner and the runner-up both win photo shoots with Poochie portraits. So that's our competition that we've got going on there on the Facebook page. And I'm very pleased to welcome to the show Sarah Eatwell from Paradise Pets here in Swindon. So thanks for coming along, Sarah. And you brought some friends with you as well, haven't you? So let's introduce these fellows first of all. Who have we got?
Very friendly. Mrs. Mouse, this is.
Mrs. Mouse.
As we call her in the shop. But she is beautiful mouse.
Oh, they're lovely, aren't they?
But if you just let her play on your fingers.
Oh, look at that. Isn't she lovely? Gorgeous. And you sort of specialise in the small furries and birds as well, don't you?
Yes, yeah. Small furries is what we specialise in, and my husband, he has the expertise with the birds. Right,
yeah, lovely. And who else have you got in the container down there?
Right, we have a couple of Netherland dwarf rabbits.
Lovely.
Babies. Okay,
beautiful, aren't they?
That one will sit.
That one will sit this
quite nicely there.
Are you sure about this?
Yes, absolutely.
Lovely. And in terms of sort of pets, for people choosing pets from a pet shop, and pet shops do get a bit of a bad reputation, don't they? Especially ones selling live pets. But I'm going to guess you would counter that by saying, you know, there are pet shops out there who do it well, like yourself. So
come in, have a look at the shop, make sure it's nice and clean. Staff are friendly, they talk to you, advise, and do your homework. So many people, you know, go into buying an animal and they don't do their homework.
And that's the most important thing, isn't it? I mean, knowing, you know, how long an animal's going to live, what housing they need.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
A lot of welfare problems come because people take on inappropriate pets, don't they? So that's one of the biggest causes of issues. So, tell me a bit more about Paradise Pets. So, what you have the whole kind of the usual kind of stuff you'd have in a pet shop, but a sort of live pet section as well.
Absolutely. So we have a large range of rabbits and guineas, hamsters, gerbils, mice.
If you were going in there for a pet for a child, what would be your recommendation? A starter pet for a child?
Mice are beautiful.
Mice.
You can see how gorgeous they are.
They are great, aren't they?
Very low maintenance.
Beautiful colours as well.
Beautiful, and we breed our own. So.
And you're into the kind of whole showing side
Absolutely.
Of small furries. So tell us about that. What animals do you show?
I show Netherland dwarf rabbits.
They're so well behaved, aren't they?
They are trained from a very early age to sit and to show themselves
I don't feel in any danger of being bitten by you. And I mean, I've never been a big fan of showing, particularly of cats and dogs, because I think you do tend to get these really inbred pedigree animals that kind of can suffer from health problems. But you don't really see that so much in these kind of small furries, do you?
No, you don't. No, you don't. Occasionally, you may see like the teeth sometimes may get problems, but outcrossing with a different strain keeps the breed nice and healthy. Lovely.
Well, we've got some questions from some of our viewers specifically for you, Sarah, so if that's all right, if I can put some of these to you. So Sarah has asked, said, I've got 2 purebred Netherland dwarf rabbits. My 3.5-year-old female has never had a problem with her teeth, but for the last 8 months we've had to have a teeth bird. Is there any reason why she's just started when her teeth have been fine before? And she's fed a good diet of dwarf nuggets with plenty of hay.
Okay, possibly try a different sort of hay.
Right.
There's so many different types of hay out there. Try a really coarse oat hay,
to try and keep
hay.
grinding
Absolutely.
them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, a lot of these problems with teeth do tend to come down to diet, don't they? And inappropriate diet. But it sounds like they're being fed a good diet, so maybe it is. I mean, I guess as they get older as well, 3.5 is getting on a bit for a rabbit, isn't it?
It's starting to get on a little bit.
So maybe it is they just kind of slightly got out of shape. Christopher, this is a contentious one, has asked, can I keep a rabbit and guinea pig together? Can they be fed the same food?
I really wouldn't go keeping them together. No. Rabbits are very powerful animals, very strong back legs. And I've seen many a damaged guinea that's been.
And also there's the diet issue, because obviously
Absolutely.
guinea pigs, as we've said on the show before, they have different requirements for vitamins and so on, so you can't feed them the same diet.
No.
So, okay, so best not to do that one. Katie said, my guinea pig doesn't like eating hay. What should I do?
Gosh, try a different sort of hay.
Okay, so and there's lots of different types out there.
There's so many different types. We stock over 20 different types of hay.
God, that was me thinking it was just dried grass. And the fast one from Joanna has said, do rabbits and guinea pigs need flea and worm treatments? I guess that's a vet question as well, isn't it? But
absolutely, rabbits you can worm. Yes.
Yeah, and you can worm anything really, especially with something like panicure. But rabbits are the ones we do regularly because they do suffer with certain parasites. So less so with guinea pigs, isn't it? But lovely, brilliant. Before we go, I want to get to see your guinea pig.
Okay.
Because what type of guinea pig is this again?
It's a teddy.
A teddy guinea pig.
And
Never seen one of these before.
He won Best in Show on Sunday.
I'm not surprised. Look at that. He looks to me slightly like a ferret crossed with a guinea pig.
Okay.
I hope that's no offence. But he's got that kind of the coat about him.
Very coarse.
Yeah, it's really coarse, isn't it?
Lots of texture to it.
So yeah, lovely. Thanks ever so much for bringing them all along. They're the best behaved small furries I've ever come across.
That's what training does for them.
Yeah. And how do you train them? Just
literally from a very early age, you get them out and sit them as I'm doing, and they
just
will
get them used to it.
They'll sit for a couple of hours on a stand without moving.
Fantastic. Lovely. Well, thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
And if anyone's watching in the Swindon area, you're in the market for a small furry or a bird or anything, or for your pet food and supplies, Paradise Pets.
Lovely.
The place to go to.
Absolutely.
So thanks for coming in. And we're now just going to see a really rather extraordinary film that involves our head vet, Adrian, who's going to be joining us again in a minute. And this was a case he saw a week or two ago involving a dog that ate something he really shouldn't have. And it's well worth a watch. This absolutely fascinating what Adrian got out of this dog.
An interesting case. We're hoping it's not going to be too serious, but we're taking all the precautions. So he's been a typical puppy, and he's eaten something he shouldn't have, but it's actually one I've not seen before. So what Bruce has eaten is 11 of these 12 growing foam animals. We're going to try and see how many of them we can get back out today so they don't cause a problem internally. So this is what he's eaten. He didn't eat the lion, that was taken out yesterday, but some of the big ones like the elephant, etc. are still inside. So what we've done is we've fed him a little bit of food to help stick to those animals, and we're going to try and make them vomit now so we can get as many of those out as possible so they don't go on to cause an obstruction. Quite good success here. He's feeling a lot better, his injection's worn off now, and actually he's produced for us 9 of the 11 safari animals we were looking for. I don't think that we've managed to get out the camel, and I think possibly it's the zebra, that's the other one we're missing. But they don't look exactly as I imagined, whether that's because he's eaten them or that's how they usually look, I don't know. But they're actually quite soft, and I don't think they've swollen up as much as we feared. So I think those remaining 2 should pass through absolutely fine. And I'll leave the remainder of the safari hunt to the owner in their back garden.
Just looking at these fantastic captions, sorry, and very pleased to welcome Adrian back.
I'm back.
And there's some cracking captions coming in. We've got so many of them, which is wonderful. Fit as a butcher's dog. I like that one. I'm a collie without borders. I can do anything, including mastering tractor driving. Dogs can drive tractors, can't they? That's why I have a dog's license. Not anymore. They don't exist anymore, do they? Looking forward to my first driving lesson. Now, where's this driving instructor? Or I'm driving without him. Can it be too hard, can it? We're going to have trouble choosing a winner, I think, on this one. But let's get down to some more serious matters before we get on to that. So we've got our veterinary Q&A.
Yep.
So we've got 2 questions on the same subject, which are on mast cell tumors.
They haven't come up before and come up twice this week.
Yeah. So Nicola has said, my 12-year-old dog has just had a second low-grade mast cell tumour removed. Both are in different places. She is otherwise very well. What diet recommendations can you make? As I've read that mast cells feed on grains. Is this true? Should I feed grain-free foods or reduce the amount of grain? Can I use antihistamines regularly to help reduce the production of mast cells, as I think they're created due to overproduction of histamines? I guess I'll tackle that bit on grains. There's absolutely no evidence, as far as I'm aware, that diet plays a specific role in mast cell tumours. And when I got your question, I did a little bit of research on the internet, and there are a few websites out there which
cheat.
Well, no, it's called Preparation. Adrian.
Oh, okay. That's a professional
which
term.
Clearly, would like to put the blame of all sort of forms of cancer in dogs on diet, and specifically grains on diets, and perpetuating quite a few myths on it. But there's no evidence, no scientific evidence, as far as I'm aware, that diet has any particular role in mast cell tumours, and specifically grains. So I would say you're absolutely fine to feed a diet containing grains. Obviously, a healthy diet, hopefully a natural diet, is going to probably help, but not specifically grain-free.
No, I haven't heard anything to that effect either.
No. So what about this use of antihistamines or any other tips with regard to mast cell tumours?
I mean, mast cell tumours are probably the most common tumour of the skin that we see in dogs. And the trouble with the mast cell tumour is that they range both in how they act clinically and their appearance. So there are certain lumps that you look at and you think, that could be this kind of cancer. But with a mast cell tumour, it can literally look like any type of tumour that you can care to imagine. It can look like a really nasty, angry thing, or it can look like a benign little skin tag. It can look like a lipoma, so a little soft fatty lump. And there's just no way to know from appearance alone what that tumour might be. So you need to take a little sample and look at it down the microscope. And actually, it's a relatively easy thing to diagnose down the microscope. And then if you've got an idea that it's a mast cell tumour, then you need to go really and take it off. And the reason you need to take it off is that they range in how they act clinically. So we have low-grade ones, which it sounds like these are, up to really high-grade ones. And low-grade ones tend to be benign and sit there, not do very much. And then the really high-grade ones, they spread all around the body, and nasty cancer, and that usually is game over for the dog.
I guess the normal treatment is excision with a wide border, isn't
it?
And going nowhere near it, chopping it out. But we've had a tweet come in asking about a dog with having chemo for mast cell tumours.
Yeah, so chemotherapy tends to be reserved for when you have multiple ones that have spread. I think if you've just got the one mast cell tumour, probably there isn't a great deal of reason behind doing chemotherapy, unless it came back on histology as really particularly nasty and you wanted to make sure there weren't any little ones that little cells that had spread throughout the body. In terms of advice on chemotherapy, I mean, there's all sorts of chemotherapy available. There's one new drug that's just come on the market in the last couple of years that's specifically designed for mast cell tumours, and it's very effective, but the mass needs to be tested first of all to check that it's going to respond to it, and then that's a very useful drug to use.
And is that something that's done in a normal practice setting, or is that a referral treatment?
A bit of both, really. It depends on the practice. I mean, we'd be happy to do chemotherapy here, and a lot of first opinion practices would be, but if they're insured or you want to go down the referral route, then obviously that's probably the best setting for chemotherapy, because it is quite a risky procedure. There are other tests you need to do at the same time, and chemotherapy is not cheap either. Especially this new drug, it can several £100s a month you can be talking. Wow. It's not like in people. We don't give, because they can't give consent to animals, you can't really plug them full of chemotherapy to the point that all their hair falls out and they're really unwell and they're vomiting and really sick, because that wouldn't be fair, because they don't really understand what's going on. So we use them at much lower doses. You can see some sickness or diarrhea, but generally speaking, the dogs will be absolutely fine, or cats will be absolutely fine. The only thing we check for is that their immune system isn't too suppressed on a blood sample. That means we can't give them another dose, but they don't tend to be as ill anywhere near as much as people are.
That's interesting, because I guess it never really occurred to me why we don't see all the hair falling out in a dog having chemo compared to a person. But it's interesting. So I hope that helps for both of those questions on mast cell tumours. And we've got one more, which is from Christine, who says, my Siamese cat Rosie, she does not always have, she She does not always have one wet nostril, only sometimes, and she does not sneeze a lot. There's lots of negatives in this. She eats well and plays well and drinks well. She cannot go outside either. I think, and she's worried she's got an allergy, but she cannot afford a load of tests. She's otherwise fine. So I think the gist of this is we've got a cat who has some kind of discharge from a nostril and she sneezes occasionally. Yeah. Sounds like an allergy. It seems to be one nostril, which I guess
that's slightly unusual. So runny nostrils, especially if they're just like a watery runny nostril, they're relatively common in cats. The trouble is they're really difficult to get to the bottom of what's causing it and really difficult to treat. So if it is allergy based, it can be anything in the environment. It can be stuff in their food. And actually, there's been interesting recent work that shows that if you feed them more fatty acids, so just oily fish, then actually you can improve the immunity of the nasal passages and the airways and actually get rid of the discharge. So that might be something to consider in the home environment. Yeah. Generally, with a nasal discharge, what I'm interested in is it one nostril or two nostrils? If it's just one nostril, that tends to mean that something's going on within that side rather than an allergy, which is usually both. If that discharge is clear, that tends to be a good sign. If it's greeny, there's probably an infection or something stuck up the nostril. If it's bloody, then that's either a really nasty infection or it could be a growth. And I think if you have a bloody discharge that spreads from one nose to the other nose, and then you start seeing a deformity in the shape of the face, then that's a really good idea that probably you've got a cancer going up on the nose. They're pretty rare, but that would be what I'd be worried about if you had blood.
Right, well hopefully that's not the case in this situation.
No, doesn't sound like it.
We've just got time for one more. This just come in on Facebook from Brian, who's saying, my bulldog has been sneezing and snotting for the past 5 to 6 days. She's still eating and drinking okay, but sounds bunged up. Sometimes it's a bit green, but mostly it's clear. No cough with it. She's been vaccinated for kennel cough, but needs her boosters. Does it sound like a cold? Anything that can help?
There you are. So that's a green discharge. So one would imply that's probably an infection of some sort or something stuck up the nostril. So if you have a green discharge that's just on one side, there might be a bit of grass or a bit of something stuck up that side. If it's a green discharge from both sides, you've probably got an infection going on. And bulldogs as a breed, they're prone to getting stuff going wrong with their airway. So that's probably what's going on. And just a trip to the vet and some antibiotics probably will bring that right. I don't think it's kennel cough. Kennel cough tends to be more of a retching cough without any discharge from the nostrils.
Have a look through those and pick a winner. While we just talk about what we're going to be doing tomorrow, actually. We're off to Crufts. So this is with the Vet's Kitchen stand. So if you're coming to Crufts, we're going to be there obviously all 4 days. I'm going to be there tomorrow, Friday and Saturday. We're in Hall 3, stand 94. We're going to be doing some great deals on our foods and giving away samples and chatting to people and all the stuff. We've got some photos of the stand as it was last year. So it'd be lovely to see you if you come along, and hopefully we're going to be joined by our winners we gave away the tickets for recently in our competition. And we look forward to seeing you at Crufts. We're running a great competition there actually. You can win a year's supply of our Vet's Kitchen food and a bottle of champagne if you come along to our stand. So has that given you enough time to come up with a winner?
Yes, we're going with this one here.
Susie Bottle, you are the winner. I like this. What do you mean you said come by? I thought you said combine.
Very good.
Very witty. There's some cracking ones on there, and again, I was disappointed you can't all win because there's some fantastic ones and they're much better than I could come up with. I like this from Fiona. I'm guarding the horses so they don't end up in your burgers. That's a good one. Full steam ahead. Well, if you won't take me to Crufts, looks like I'll have to get there myself. Pudsey, your heart out, you can dance, I drive a tractor. If you want to see all of them, then just go on our Facebook page if you haven't already. But Susie, congratulations, and we'll be in touch and we'll get your bag of Vet's Kitchen food to you. So I think that's us about done for this week, isn't it? So I'm not here next week.
Oh, you're not?
No, I'm waiting. You're on your own.
It's me on my own. I think I'll be joined with Ed. So it'll be a vet special next week.
Special. What, you're implying I'm not a vet?
You're a special vet.
A special vet. Yeah. That's very fair. A fair description. So thank you ever so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the show. And actually one thing we didn't mention during the whole show was that the film about the dogs.
Oh, we're talking about the safari one.
We didn't pick up on that, but that was amazing.
Oh, it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, unfortunately, Archie, our cameraman, decided not to put in the bits of the actual vomit coming out because he thought that was a bit you know, people didn't want to see that. But that was even better because we were picking through it and going, oh, a giraffe, and things. You know, it was really good fun. I mean, we thought that they were going to be a lot more bigger than that and really swollen up, and they could cause an obstruction. Obviously, when they came out, they were quite pathetic, so we weren't really too bothered about the other two. But it was brilliant. Yeah, the stuff we get here at the clinic.
It is amazing. Yeah, some of the cases we get. But anyway, that we really have got to go now. So thank you for that, Adrian.
No problem.
And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. But we'll be back next Wednesday at 6 o'clock with Adrian, as I said, Vet Special. Get your questions in on Facebook or by email, contact at vetsclinic.co.uk. Thanks all for watching.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye.